I have spent the past 4 years dissecting misrepresentations, reality TV tropes, and producer manipulation that occurred on Dance Moms. But these videos just scratch the surface of wider trends. Children from plenty of other reality TV shows have been speaking out against the overwork, exploitation, mistreatment, and psychological harm that is rampant in the industry. And if these trends are hidden in the dark, no meaningful change can happen, and the cycle of abuse will continue. Because there is more to the treatment of children featured on reality TV than the producers care to show.
I would say February 2008, we filmed every single day except for 2.
Kids on reality TV are often overworked and exhausted from long filming days. Pageants on toddlers and tiaras were often filmed over the course of 7 hours in a single day. It's therefore no surprise that the children get so tired and emotional that they act out. In one scene, we see a child throwing a tantrum on stage. But right before this happens, you can see that the child is sitting in the audience, just about falling asleep. When she is suddenly pushed onto the stage, it's no surprise that the exhaustion and feeling overwhelmed just made the child emotional. But of course, the producers of these shows will often push the bratty narrative by including all of the instances where they're upset, but none of the context for how they got there. By this point, we all know that the Dance Moms filming schedule was incredibly grueling. The girls went to school full-time for the majority of the show, and then in the evenings they had to film from 4 o'clock to sometimes as late as midnight. This would occur all throughout the week, and then on the weekends they would attend a competition, often travelling quite far to get there. John from John and Kate Plus 8 says that he remembers in February 2008 that his family filmed every day except for 2 days. There was a lot of discussion as to whether or not their family home constituted a formal TV set. If it had been confirmed to be a set, the production company would have broken child labour laws. But there is a loophole that many reality TV shows have found. If they argue that the children on the show were just going about their daily lives, in many states, child work permits were not necessary. It has been revealed that in 2010, TLC did not obtain work permits for the children on 19 Kids and Counting, despite 15 of the 19 children being underage at the time. And this is totally legal. Unlike with scripted movies and television shows, some states don't require production companies to get work permits for children involved in reality TV. This is despite the fact that they are subjected to long hours and sometimes even recite lines given to them by production. Without work permits, the children are not officially recognised as employees, and therefore child labour laws are often ignored. This means that some children have no limits to filming hours, may not get meal breaks, proper compensation, or adequate schooling. The Times reported that TLC, WeTV, and Bravo have all had a history with not getting permits for child reality stars on their networks.
I remember in this moment being scared out of my mind. He goes, "You're 9, grow up."
There is an odd phenomenon where a lot of children featured on reality TV are held to a similar standard as their adult counterparts. But while adults have the understanding, control, and the emotional skills to navigate the filming of television, children are much more easily overwhelmed by strong emotions. Studies confirm that they often do not know how to calm themselves down, and so they seek comfort from their parents to work through difficult situations. This is why it is so outrageous when authority figures such as Abby Lee Miller on Dance Moms screams at children not to cry or go to their parents for comfort. It is also why crying should not be viewed as an inherently bratty act. Children also have very little control over their surroundings and lack the understanding of how media representations are constructed. Distinguishing reality from manipulated storylines can therefore be very difficult, especially when the filming sets are locations where they spend a lot of time off camera. For instance, Holly was furious on Dance Moms when her daughter Nia was given a solo and special attention, only to find out that their former teammate Kendall was being pitted against her. Nia, who was only 10 years old at the time, would have struggled to understand what was happening. In a blog post about this episode, Holly declared, "This is a feud among adults, and it is unfair that my child, who loves to dance, was used as a pawn in a warped adult game. I was frustrated as a mother because I could not shield my child from this setup and manipulation." A production assistant who worked on the reality show Amish Out of Order recalls that it was their job to check legal clearances for participants. She felt uncomfortable about the process, saying, "We were getting 18-year-olds with 8th grade educations to sign legal contracts they didn't understand." The producers were very involved in the lives of these participants. The assistant revealed that they didn't just document their running away from home, they'd drive them. There was no consideration for how it would upend their lives in the long term. One of the teens on the show died in a car crash. Rather than giving the other cast members time to grieve, the assistant claims, "They wanted me to locate his smashed up car in a junkyard so they could send a teen there to have a scripted breakdown." Jacob Roloff, a cast member on the TLC show Little People Big World, has described the psychological reasoning that develops as a result of being a child on reality TV. If cameras are filming you up to 7 days a week, 8 or more hours a day, there will eventually be an existential confusion on what is the real family and what is the characterized family. The transitions would become seamless. He points out that on reality shows, cast members feel pressure and expectations from viewers, production, and media parent companies to convey a particular caricature of themselves. He also describes what it was like being watched by the ever-present cameras. On several Wednesdays, I remember opening my eyes for the first time with the dark monocle lens of the camera staring back at me. Always with a perfectly normal human person behind it, and at least one other sound guy in the hall. I learned early on how to pretend to be asleep, and the value of patience, boring the camera guy until he gives up in exasperation.
Up until around the time we left the show, we hadn't been paid.
Compensation for children is also notoriously vague in the reality TV world. Toddlers and Tiara's mum Mickey says that neither the kids nor the families were paid to appear on the show. The only benefit of participating in it was notoriety, in the hopes that the kids would get offers for interviews, tours, or magazine covers. Furthermore, there are no regulations surrounding what happens to cash prizes won at pageants on Toddlers and Tiaras. Since the prize money isn't guaranteed, all the efforts leading up to a pageant is not legally recognised as work, no matter how many hours go into preparing for them. There is no guild or union representation for child reality TV stars. Their parents, who may or may not understand the industry, and may or may not have their children's best interests at heart, can dictate their participation. In the worst case scenarios, the parents are the only ones paid, and they refuse to share the money with their children. And already there are multiple examples of parents taking money away from their kids. It has been alleged by Duggar daughter Jill, who starred on the reality shows 19 Kids and Counting and its spin-off Counting On, that she was never paid for her time on television until they got an attorney involved. Her husband Derek claimed that the family's patriarch, Jim Bob Duggar, negotiated the contracts with TLC for everyone on the show without their awareness. He says that at first they thought that the family didn't make any money from the show, and that they were just paid in perks like free travel, gas, and going to restaurants. They were shocked to find that this was not true. But when a fan asked him why the family's patriarch, Jim Bob Duggar, was paid the whole cast's earnings, he responded, saying that they would need to ask him about it. It is unfortunately quite common for families featured on reality TV shows to receive one check for the whole group. It is generally assumed that the parents will divide up the money. If this is the case, this would have made everyone in the family financially dependent on Jim Bob, and therefore have to stay in his good graces in order to receive what they should have been rightfully owed. And financial dependence is certainly not ideal within a family who is heavily involved in a cult. John and Kate Goslin opened trust funds for each of their 8 children. John has since claimed that Kate stole a combined $100,000 from Hannah and Colin's accounts. Kate claims that she borrowed the money from these accounts just to survive. This is despite earning a reported $40,000 per episode for her spin-off series, Kate Plus Date. She also says that regardless, her kids owe her the money because she paid for their private schooling. This is the same year that she bought a $750,000 home. But the horrible thing here is that yet again this isn't illegal. Back when the show first started filming, there was no legal amount of the show's earnings that had to be put aside for the kids. Imagine if all of the arguments you've had in your life were filmed by a stranger, and they took out the worst things you said, edited it together, and then presented the footage on TV to define your character. Would you say that characterization was accurate? There is a saying in internet studies, the internet never forgets. This is the reason why people still ask Vivienne Stein across her social media accounts if her finger's okay, making a reference to a line she delivered on Dance Moms when she was 6 years old. Vivi takes these comments in her stride, but for many other reality TV children, it's much less harmless lines or actions that people remember. For many of these docu-style reality shows, parents sign contracts saying that the editors and producers have the right to do whatever they wish with the footage of their children. This means that legally, they can completely destroy the image and reputation of any participants without consequence. Shane Keogh was featured on the show The Real Housewives of Orange County beside his mother Gina. One day he was playing baseball and the film crew came to film the game. But at this game, he was told that he would be sitting on the substitutes bench. The producers put pressure on his mother to talk to her son on camera about it. He was so embarrassed that he swore, shouting at his mother to get away from him. This scene was then edited to look as though he had sworn at his mother for no reason. The incident resulted in Shane receiving death threats, a shortened baseball career, and continued hate on social media ever since. All from a teenager's spur-of-the-moment burst of anger towards his mother. His mother openly supports her son, eventually removing the family from television. She declares that editing ruined their experience with television, because you can hit a home run and it will show you striking out. Darcy, a mother who was featured on Toddlers and Tiaras, revealed that the producers often told the participants what to do, including feeding them lines. She claims that a lot of what viewers see is recreated for the cameras. For instance, in one scene, her daughter sang a seemingly improvised song, but in reality, they filmed that scene 6 times. Darcy also claims that the producers take audio clips out of context all the time for the sake of creating drama. She explained that they shot a scene of them exiting their house to go to the pageant venue 3 days before the pageant even took place. Wana, who became infamous on Toddlers and Tiaras alongside her daughter Mackenzie, has revealed that she didn't feel comfortable disciplining her child on camera. This gave audiences the perception that she was a pushover parent and made her child appear spoiled. The outdaughtered producers have been pushing the narrative that Riley is the terrible and troublemaking one her entire life. They force Parker into situations which trigger her anxieties and then push further storylines about her receiving anxiety treatment. Parents Paul and Susan Young have declared that the producers of the show Super Nanny encouraged their children to exaggerate their misbehaviour for the sake of the cameras. They claim that they left us with children that were more naughty than when they arrived. Some common editing tricks seen again and again to make children seem bratty include using a clip of the parent talking about how wonderful their child is, immediately followed and contrasted with a clip of their child acting in the exact opposite way.
She is a very, very sweet child.
Be quiet!
They also use sound clips of children crying and place it over a clip where their faces can't be seen, to make it seem as though they are crying more than they actually are. They take sound clips of children being loud and overlaying it with people around them to make it seem like they're being disruptive. And they often take clips of children crying due to exhaustion and make them appear entitled. This is a content warning for the next segment, which discusses sexual exploitation and crimes against children in the reality TV world.
I was in a dark place mentally. I think being in a place like that does more damage than it helps you.
Jacob Roloff has declared, "I had tons of fun and so many opportunities and friendships, and also anger, frustration, the myriad of emotions. However, money, things and trips, all material, cannot ultimately compensate for the immaterial experiences of a childhood innocently experienced." He has alleged that during his time filming for his family's show, he was groomed and molested by the show's executive field producer. He has made it clear that all fault lies with the predator in this situation, and none of it lies with his family. The producer was arrested for other crimes against children in 2008, 1 year after he started working on the show. He was reportedly held on a $200,000 bond and was released after less than a month in jail. Afterwards, he continued to work on the reality show, despite the fact that the Roloff children were still minors at the time. Jacob's father, Matt Roloff, described the man as a father figure to his sons Jeremy and Jacob. Colin Gosling was sent by his mother to an institution while his family was filming the show Kate+8. Colin claims that staying at Fairmount Behavioural Health Institute did him more harm than good. He revealed that in order to be released, he had to sneak a handwritten letter out to his dad. One staff member from this facility pled guilty to institutional sexual assault in 2021 after raping a patient in 2020. And it is reported that between 2015 and 2019, the police were called to the facility almost 100 times for alleged assaults and sexual offences. This environment wasn't ideal for any child, let alone one who had grown up in the public eye. William Blankenship, who was an editor for John and Kate+8 and 19 Kids and Counting, was arrested in 2011 and convicted on 2 counts of sexual exploitation of a child. He was found in possession of child pornography. This is obviously incredibly concerning for many reasons, but one of them being that TLC cameras got to film in the homes of children. Editors such as himself had access to footage of these children in compromising positions, such as when they weren't clothed. And disturbingly, this is some of the content that TLC capitalizes on the most. Clips of kids in pools, kids taking baths, kids potty training, you name it. Even though things are often censored for television, plenty of people saw it before it got there. Not to mention that the unaltered footage could still exist somewhere. I can't imagine the anxiety that the cast members would experience, living with the fear that this kind of content could resurface. Ultimately, the legal system has failed these kids, and sadly, if you're thinking that a reality show created today could never get away with these things, you'd be mistaken. As of January 2023, only 24 states require children in the entertainment industry to have work permits. And the states without these protections are therefore highly attractive filming locations for reality TV producers. How many reality shows filming children have to be made before enough is enough? It's about time that we think about the children's needs, as so many adults have failed to do over the years.